This is a space for slow reflection, quiet clarity, and ideas that only reveal themselves when we stop trying to force answers. In the last videos, we moved inward. We questioned the ego. We stepped back from the mind. And we noticed something subtle but undeniable, that thoughts, emotions, and sensations are all being observed, that there is awareness. For many people, this realization feels like a turning point, a moment of relief, a sense that something fundamental has been understood. And yet, after the insight fades, life continues. Old reactions return. Emotions still overwhelm. Anxiety still tightens the body. Fear still feels real. And a quiet question begins to form. If I am awareness, why do I still suffer? This is not a failure of understanding. It is not a sign that the insight was false. It is the next layer revealing itself. Suffering does not end simply because awareness is recognized, because suffering does not come from the absence of awareness. It comes from identification. Even after awareness is noticed, the mind remains powerful, not because it is evil or broken, but because it has been practiced for a lifetime. The mind has learned to interpret every sensation as personal, every emotion as meaningful, every thought as urgent. And awareness, when first recognized, is often misunderstood. The mind quietly turns it into another idea. I am aware. I have seen the truth. I understand. But these are still thoughts. And the mind is very patient. It does not argue with awareness. It waits. It waits for a strong emotion, a threat, a memory, a moment of uncertainty. And when that moment arrives, attention collapses back into the story. Suddenly, the body is tense again. The narrative is loud again. The sense of being a separate self feels real again. This is not awareness failing. This is conditioning resurfacing. Awareness does not remove emotional pain. It reveals how pain becomes suffering. Pain is a sensation, tightness, heat, pressure, a feeling in the body. Suffering begins when the mind adds a story to that sensation. This shouldn't be happening. I can't handle this. This means something is wrong with me. This will never end. Awareness sees all of this. But awareness does not interfere. And this is where many people become frustrated. They expect awareness to protect them, to prevent discomfort, to create permanent calm. But awareness does not manage experience. It illuminates it. The expectation that awareness should remove suffering is itself another form of identification, another subtle demand placed on reality. When that demand is not met, disappointment follows, and disappointment feels like failure. But nothing has gone wrong. In fact, something important is happening. Suffering after awareness is not a step backward. It is where insight meets reality. It is where understanding stops being conceptual and begins to touch the nervous system. Because even when awareness is clear, the body still reacts. The nervous system still responds to threat. Old patterns still activate automatically. Awareness does not erase these responses. It makes them visible. And visibility changes everything, slowly. At first, awareness is noticed after suffering. You realize you were lost in thought only once the emotion has passed. Then, over time, awareness begins to appear during suffering. You notice tension while it is happening. You see the story forming in real time. And eventually, not through effort, but familiarity. Awareness begins to appear before full identification takes hold. This is not control. It is recognition. Suffering shortens. It softens. It becomes less convincing. Not because life stops being difficult, but because the mind is no longer believed automatically. This is the difference between pain and resistance. Pain moves through the body. Resistance argues with reality. Awareness allows pain. Resistance multiplies it. And resistance is learned. It comes from years of trying to escape discomfort, of trying to fix feelings, of trying to think one's way out of experience. Awareness does not offer an escape route. It offers honesty. It shows you exactly where suffering is created, not to blame you, but to free you from confusion. When suffering is seen clearly, it loses some of its authority. Not immediately, not permanently, but enough. Enough to pause, enough to breathe, enough to not add another layer of fear. This is why awareness feels subtle, not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It does not claim victory. It simply notices. And over time, that noticing changes your relationship to experience. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start noticing, "This is happening." You stop demanding relief and start allowing movement. You stop waiting for a final breakthrough and start integrating insight into ordinary moments. This is where real change happens, not in peak experiences, not in perfect clarity, but in small recognitions repeated again and again. Suffering still arises, but it is no longer absolute. It no longer defines you. It becomes something that happens, not something you are. And this is where the journey turns outward again. Because awareness alone is not the end. The next question is not, how do I stay aware? But, how does this understanding live inside my relationships, my choices, my actions? That is a different kind of work. Quieter, less romantic, more real. And that is where we go next. If this reflection resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. Not to analyze it, but to notice where it already shows up in your life. And if you'd like to continue this inward journey, you can support Quiet Thinker by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It helps this space reach others who are ready to slow down and look honestly. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay present.